What is up, everybody? What is up? Well, LSU did 6 points better than my prediction, 72-10. We will update that score right now. Let some people get in here. Tell me who your MVPs were in the comments. Tell me what you thought of this railroad game. It was what we wanted to see. It was what we needed to see. It was what we had to see. We needed to see LSU going out there and just taking control from the get-go. And you saw that. You saw Jaden Daniels just look at those numbers. I mean, the numbers don't really show off. The yards don't really show off. But the completion percentage, the 5 passing touchdowns, that's tied for third single game all-time LSU record. He looked good for the most part. Once again, there were drops by our receivers. I can't believe it. Brian Thomas Jr. drops a big one early. Mason Taylor drops one. Shelton Sampson Jr. dropped 2, which could have been 2 touchdowns. Just some poor drops. But outside of those drops, Garrett Nussmeier threw those passes that Shelton Sampson Jr. drops. Our receiving core actually had a good game today. And you saw Malik Neighbors, 5 catches, 87, gets the score off the jet sweep. They just ran it a couple times in a row, just like we got to get him in the end zone. And he gets in, just goes flying around that corner, had a nice 30-yard burner right through the center of the field, where that's where you see Malik doing his best, is when he's catching and running over the middle. And we haven't seen enough of that. Maybe he needed to be in the slot the whole time. Brian Thomas Jr., 78 yards, 6 catches, 2 touchdowns, has the drop, but redeems himself with a really strong performance. Second game, I believe, where he has more than 6 catches. Really good game from him. Chris Hilton Jr. Chris Hilton Jr. with a 47-yard bomb down the field. I mean, he always seems to catch these big bomb plays down the field. Scores, I believe, his second touchdown as a Tiger. 47-yarder down the field, only 2 catches, but he proved his point. Didn't drop anything. Kyron Lacey had a good comeback game, 62 yards, 3 catches, and then had that touchdown right the stroke at halftime. I mean, our offense were outrageous. Every drive except for that final drive, we scored a touchdown. Turn it over on downs. Jay Bramblett had the night off. That's awesome. The first drive, 8 plays, 77 yards, touchdown. 3 plays, 76 yards, touchdown. 7 plays, 69 yards, touchdown. 9 plays, 80 yards, touchdown. 9 plays, 70 yards, touchdown. 10 plays, 85 yards, touchdown. The longest time of possession on those first half touchdowns, 4 minutes and 17 seconds. We scored 2 touchdowns with under 1 minute and 15 seconds. Four of those drives went for under 4 minutes. 3 went for under 3 minutes. Sorry, 4 went for under 3 minutes. Very impressive. Very impressive. LSU forcing 2 turnovers. Greg Penn with a really acrobatic interception. And then Jalen Lee with a fumble recovery off of the fumble from the snap. But the defense was terrible tonight. I mean, I know we gave up 10 points. I know we had 2 turnovers. We finally got a sack on the season. Jordan Jefferson with just a 1 sack in the game. We saw Mason Smith get a tackle for loss. He didn't. He looked like he was just getting his legs out from underneath him. Mason Smith seemed like he was really rusty. You saw him get pushed over. You saw him look really sweaty and just beat by the 5th, 6th play. But then he started, they kept him in clear until the 3rd quarter, and he started kind of getting his shit together. It was very interesting to see Mason Smith back. Had a tackle for loss. Was involved in some plays, just 1 tackle total. But good to see him back playing the game. As we said before, he's missed so much. Kai Wingo had a half tackle for loss. Savion Jones with 2 quarterback hits and a tackle for loss. He had a few plays in the backfield. Zy Alexander led the way with the tackles, led the way with 2 pass breakups, but was really bad in coverage again. We saw Denver Harris. And there was a lot of talk about what Denver Harris could provide. There was a lot of people saying he's the best corner. And you'll see that immediately. There's a lot of people really bullish about Denver Harris playing in this game. We asked Brian Kelly on Wednesday, would he play in this game? He confirmed he would appear in this game. He got burnt to a crisp on his first target. Absolutely burnt to a crisp. Right over the top, fade route, just completely helpless on the play. 1 second, let us post this on Twitter. Completely forgot to post this on Twitter. Stupid of me. I mean, you had Logan Diggs go for 115, 15 carries, 1 touchdown, 7.7, 5 rushes for over 10 plus yards. But then you had Caleb Jackson go for 131 total yards, 72 return yards. He was awesome every return. It seemed like over 20. 59 rushing yards, not return yards. We'll fix that. And the 2 rushing scores. He was fantastic tonight. Literally bullying people out there. Lowering the boom, lowering the pads, scoring in the red zone, getting big plays, doing it all. Announcing himself on the big stage. I know it's just against Grambling, but it was big for him to get these moments. Caleb Jackson looks like he is ready for the big stage. He looks like he is ready to go all out. I mean, Caleb Jackson was stunning tonight. He looked like an LSU running back. And so did Logan Diggs. There wasn't any, hesitation, any worries, or dancing around. They were going for it. They were smashing people in the face. And that's what you want to see. And you saw very quickly Noah Cain being relegated clear down to like the 4th running back, 5th running back on the roster. Crazy. So you got to see the running game really go off. I mean, total yards running the ball. LSU ran the ball for over 302 yards tonight. Passed for 320. Garrett Nussmeier came in, looked good, 4 for 6, 48 yards. Didn't get too many chances to pop. Had that pass over the middle, I believe, to Malik Neighbors at one point. Josh Williams even had some good running days, some good running plays today. Good running day for him, 6 for 43. You saw guys get the ball a lot more fed to them than we saw last year in some of these gimme games. And you saw LSU put the pedal to the metal more in these games than you saw last year. So I'm hoping they learned the lesson, took advantage of this chance to really sharpen some parts of their game. 11 of 14 on 3rd down. That is a fantastic improvement right there. You saw us making big plays all over the field. Getting over 300 yards in both categories is just really beautiful reading. Only 2 penalties. We ran 22 more plays than Grambling tonight. Average more yards per play, 7.6 per play, 6.3 per rush. Everything looks good. This is against Grambling, though. What are we going to see from this game into the Mississippi State game? What is that going to show us? Well, one thing I'm worried, that secondary, how poorly they played coming out in this game. How much is that going to be exposed again by Mississippi State? I mean, Will Rogers is a guy who's thrown over 100 attempts on us in the last 2 games. He's done, pretty well. He's had some mixed results. He's, of course, 0-2 against us in his career, but still, these games have always been cagey against Mississippi State. These games have always kind of been, 30 to 16 in that region. What are we going to see from this offense? What is that going to, what lessons, what personnel decisions made tonight are going to affect that LSU performance in the SEC opener at Mississippi State in Starkville? Are we going to see Caleb Jackson? Are we going to see Logan Diggs now be the solidified number 2 rushers? Are we going to see Brian Thomas Jr. fed the ball a ton? Malik Neighbors fed the ball a ton? Are we going to see this slick passing game from Jaden Daniels? Because it looked good. He was putting the ball on the money at times. There was, he missed Malik on a go route, scissors route that was like just wide open. Just hit him in stride and he's gone. That was one where it was like you wish Jaden had that back. He obviously looked pissed off. He wished he had that back, but the guy threw for 5 passing touchdowns tonight. So, what are we going to see in Game 3? Jaden Daniels went for over 300 yards, made the wrong reads in the loss against Florida State. Tonight throws for 269, 18 to 24, 5 passing touchdowns, third all-time single game at LSU. And it's the only quarterback alongside Joe Burrow to throw for 5 touchdowns in a single half, which is just crazy and amazing and beautiful. But facing against top-tier team, against top-tier DBs, with your receivers still dropping passes, and Chris Hilton Jr. still unable to really get like a start or get an extended sequence of plays except for 2 catches. And they're still really hesitant to play the freshman receivers, aren't they? We saw 0 plays from Jaylen Brown. We saw Shelton Sampson played the most. He had 2 chances to catch a touchdown, went right off his fingertips. It's kind of crazy. Kamarian Pimpton caught his first LSU reception. Mac Markway, I think, had like a 4-yard catch or something like that. Let's take a look. Yeah, Markway had 1 for 8. Logan Diggs had 1 catch for 18 yards too. Like he's a dual threat dude. He was awesome in that at Notre Dame. He was very adept at receiving the ball. 5 rushing touchdowns. Garrett Nussmeier got in on the act with a rushing score. 5 rushing touchdowns, 5 passing touchdowns. This was beautifully orchestrated offensive football. And that is what we need to do next week. I know we're playing against a far superior opponent than Grambling, but it's all about sequences of plays and setting this stuff up, orchestrating this shit, letting Jaden Daniels distribute the football, be in command. It's about Jaden Daniels being willing to face down pressure and not think, oh, I'm going to dance around it. I'm going to get away from it. Like, sometimes you got to hang in there and make the throw. And tonight you saw him hanging in there for quite a lot longer than usual, even when he had some pressure coming at him. So hopefully that's just an omen of things to come with Jaden Daniels. Oh, LSU with their first win of the season, 72-10. Just a crazy ass whooping, as it should be. I predicted 62-6. LSU, do me better by 10 points. The defense did not look as good as it looks. Only 10 points allowed. We technically should have allowed like 24-30 or something by the way our defense played. Our defense had a great second half. But in that first half, what's his name? Crawley? Yeah, Miles Crawley. His numbers don't look too good, 14 for 25, but I'm telling you, he was picking on our DBs. He was making beautiful throws on our guys, like literally lofting it over our guys. Zy Alexander got picked on again in coverage. I mean, he has proven himself to be a liability. Plays soft coverage and gets burnt. Ashton Stamps actually had a pass breakup and some rare snaps for him. He looked good. Javion Toviano, we got to see his debut. He came in late in the second half, had 2 tackles. Let's see. Denver Harris actually almost had an interception in the red zone. He had the ball in his hands, just diving, and I think the ball was jarred loose somehow. I think by the back of the helmet or something. He almost had a sick red zone pick. He finished with a pass breakup for that play, but 0 tackles. So jury's still out on Denver Harris. Really, Jordy Collada was a big proponent of him playing, and I'm not saying Jordy was wrong, but I really wonder what Jordy's going to say um, on Monday, because he was someone who was saying, like, from the first play you will see him take over. Well, the first play he got scored on right over the top. And so I know he can respond from that. He could very well respond from that and be a dynamic player for LSU, because he's just that gifted. It's just, we'll see. Ovia Gufu didn't look too good, but he had a nice pass breakup where he just batted the ball at the line, almost right on the goal line. We got a safety too when their long snapper snapped the ball into the end zone and out of bounds. They were some of the errors Grambling made were just kindergarten, just calamitous. It was stuff that it was so bad. It was so bad. It was like a Matt Canada offense or something. Like, it was terrible over there. Like, Grambling really played us well. We're punching up in that first quarter and that second quarter. But every time Grambling made some big plays, they had a 36-yard run on us on 3rd and long. They had a 19-yard catch, 13-yard catch, 19-yard rush, 13-yard rush, 34-yard long catch, 25-yard long catch, 15 yards, 13, 12, 11. They had a bunch of long catches on us. Antonio Jones went 7 out of 8 targets, 7 catches at 8 targets, 81 yards. Like, they were dealing it to us at times. The problem is every time they did that, they would have some terrible penalty or just really screw themselves. Outside of Antonio Jones, 7 catches, 81 yards. Everybody else is just 1 catch, 1 for 25, 1 for 15, 1 for 13, 1 for 12, 1 for 11. So you got a bunch of big plays there, though, just being picked on in the passing game. At least 6 right there. And this is Grambling. This shouldn't be happening. Against Mississippi State, that 34-yard long pass play, that's going to become like a 50-yard play. A 25-yard is going to be like a 45. Like, LSU are going to have to really. It's not going to be about how many catches you allow against Mississippi State and how many targets you get and how many catches you allow. It's going to be about how many yards after catch you can minimize. It's literally going to be about making those tackles right after the catch. It's going to be about shutting down those passing lanes. And it's not going to be about using a soft zone all game. And okay, if we have a soft zone, all these guys in these areas, he won't have a pocket to throw in, like pockets in the secondary to throw into, windows in the secondary. That's bullshit. Will Rogers will be able to figure that out. We still have to pressure him and attack him. And I just didn't. We had 1 sack from our first 2 games. 1 sack. With a defense that is Harold Perkins and Mason Smith back, Deshaun Womack, Savion Jones, Ovia Gofu, who we heard so much about, was supposed to be the second coming of defensive line Christ, according to every media member down there. Braden Swinson was good in limited snaps. He had a quarterback hit. Harold Perkins also had a quarterback hit, so I guess he had 1 pressure at least. But yeah, just not enough pressure. 4 quarterback hits, 4 tackles for loss, 6 pass breakups, 1 sack from Jordan Jefferson right up the gut. He just came flying in there, just boom, sacked the dude. It was awesome. It was awesome to see the transfer step up like that. 3 tackles, 1 solo, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 sack for him on the day. Um, Greg Penn with that interception, that was a crazy play. He also had a half tackle for loss and 5 tackles. So Greg Penn the third saying, "Put me in, coach." Bryce Langston gets some rare snaps at LSU. 2 tackles for him. Interesting. He's rarely played. Rarely played. But yeah, LSU, you love this score. You love watching these guys go off and put up these type of yards and numbers, touchdowns. You want to see Jaden Daniels throwing for 5 scores in just a single half. You want to see all these guys doing stuff like this. I think the running game had more success of popping. I know that people are going to say, "What do you mean he threw 5 passing touchdowns?" Sure, we still dropped some passes. We still missed some long plays like that Malik Neighbors wide open touchdown to open the third quarter that should have been another home run play. The screen passes, the terrible play, like LSU quarterbacks, both him, Jaden Daniels, and Nussmeier cannot throw these bubble screen passes where they're hitting guys back and behind instead of hitting them straight in the kind of the head or just straight and just on a line. So then you never throw them backwards. You never throw them backwards, and you're seeing it on every one of those screenplays. They just become negative plays. They become blown up, and it's like that can be a great part of our offense. You saw Brian Thomas Jr. score off of a 70-yard one of those. You know Malik Neighbors can do that after the catch. It's almost going to be like a fumble or an interception or like just a negative play, an incompletion on these type of plays. Aaron Anderson, we didn't really get going in this game. That was a shame. And, Brian Kelly said that Aaron Anderson would be trusted as the punt returner, and we would see him back there. Okay? Well, let's see here. He did not return a punt. Only Gregory Clayton did. 1 for 22. That was a nice punt return there from Gregory Clayton. 36 total return yards from Clayton. Second to Caleb Jackson. 3 kick returns, 72 yards. Fantastic numbers from Caleb Jackson. You just hope this fills the team with confidence where they can go into that next game against Mississippi State. Go toe to toe. Understand they're going to try and beat you House of 1,000 daggers, death by 1,000 cuts. They're going to try and throw it 80 billion times on you. You just got to hunker in and make the tackles. Just make the tackles. Put the guys on the field who can make the tackles. You're not going to see guys getting like 9 fast breakups in this game. You're not going to see guys. This guy has 2 fast breakups. This guy has 3. He's got you might see a couple here and there, but it's going to be completions and making the tackles because you've seen how these guys cover. And I'm really wondering if Mississippi State are going to be like, okay, we'll throw the intermediary routes, throw the underneath stuff that they think we're going to do, the dink and dunk, and then we're going to hit them big. We're going to go for these big Hail Mary shots. We're going to go for these scissor routes. if they run these scissor routes on our DBs, we're screwed, because basically you've got them going, they're crossing like that. And when they cross, our DBs never know what the hell they're doing. They always run into each other. You saw it against Mississippi State in 2020. You've seen it again with Florida State last year and just last week. And you saw it actually one or two times tonight again. And so it's like, it's something that we just somehow cannot get around. These scissor routes, they're killing us. These pick routes too. These pick routes where someone's not paying attention to the other guy. They're just so focused on their job and not screwing up. They're not aware enough to see that the other dude's about to pick them. There's just some defensive back flaws and just some kindergarten errors that are going on that I don't necessarily feel is on the coaching staff. I just feel like they don't have a very good room to work with. Let's be real here. Sometimes it's not like, well, the coach is screwing up, the coach has got to. Sometimes you can't turn every, 3 or 4 star who doesn't have the motivation to be like a great player into a great player. Sometimes you can't just make every single player that everybody expects to be good into that superstar. They have to want to be that guy. There's some DBs out there who don't really care. Who are not really playing like they care. Some of them know exactly, like, who, if they're watching this, who I'm referring to, because I've told them, like, bro, you don't look like you want it enough out there. There's some tough conversations out there after the Florida State game. And you saw the desire back, but there's just frankly a gulf in class with this DB group that just they're struggling, man. They're struggling. We have to figure out something. And I think it's a shame maybe we didn't start or play more of like Javian Toviano, LaTerrence Welch, Jeremiah Hughes, Ashton Stamps, Ryan Yates. Find out really how good those guys are, because I just have a feeling we're going to need them. These redshirt sophomores, Jordan Allen as well. These redshirt sophomores, these freshmen, I feel like we're really going to need them at the back, because Zy Alexander, he's getting roasted, toasted. I mean, Zy Alexander, I would not be shocked if he allowed like another 4 or 5 catches again tonight. And for all we heard about this dude, Southeastern transfer, like, oh, well, he's going to play up to, the competition, even though he's from Southeastern. But so Mekhi Gardner was from this small school. It's like, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what school they're from. It's about the player, And Zy Alexander, he made some plays. He had some interesting pass breakups where he was completely beaten on the play and like barely get a hand in there. He fights. He battles. It's an improvement from last week. I'll say that for sure. But my God, he's getting picked on. He's really got to figure it out. The Jaden Daniels thing, though, 269, 18 of 24, 5 passing touchdowns. What did you all think of Jaden Daniels tonight? What did you think you saw from, like, okay, not just tonight, but what did this performance mean to you for LSU going forward? What did you see? What stuck out to you about, okay, now he's got it. Now we're feeling like he's in the groove. What was it really that big of a deal to move Emory Jones to right guard, kick Lance Hurd out to right tackle, and put Miles Frazier on the bench? Was that really that big of a move? I think yes. Your running game suddenly turned on for over 300 yards. So even if, say, Miles Frazier is able to let LSU do half that good, like it's still quite an incredible amount. It's completely night and day from our running game from last time. That was like 11 of 14 if you minus a few big plays, including Jaden Daniels' contributions. And that was great too. Tonight you saw Jaden Daniels run the ball like twice. Didn't like that it was up the middle. Didn't like that it subjected him to shots, but he ran the ball 5 times, 29 yards. He had a long of 12. I mean, Jaden Daniels is just ridiculous with stacking up the stats. Ooh, he just barely had under 300 total yards, 298 total yards. That would bother me if I was Jaden. I'd be like, let me go in there and get that number. But that's just me. He probably had no clue what his numbers were, And it was Nussmeier's time to come in. Has LSU fixed their offensive problems this quickly? I mean, they looked ruthless tonight. 8 of 8 in the red zone. I don't care who it's against. LSU didn't look this good last year again in the gimme games against New Mexico, against Southern. We just didn't look this good. We threw the ball. We got like guys like Besh, Neighbors, some touchdowns last year, but we didn't pop this much throwing the football. Not even close. I mean, Jaden Daniels threw that deep ball to Chris Hilton beautifully. On it, just dropping the dime in the bucket. We will be right back. Just 1 second. Just 1 second. Just 1 second. And we're back. We're back. It was interesting that they didn't let Garrett Nussmeier throw the ball at all. You notice that? He really just threw a couple things, ran the ball in first for a touchdown. I think his first ever rushing touchdown. And then he handed the ball off. That was all they let him do. They even put in Ricky Collins too. They took snaps away from Garrett to put in Ricky Collins. Which I get. You had to play Ricky in this game. I understand. But I think they played Ricky a bit too much. Let Ricky go in there for the last drive of the game. That was it. They let him go in there for I think 2 or 3 drives. Garrett Nussmeier should have had more time out there. I think they should have called more deep shots. But at the same time, hey, they gave him a few deep shots to Sheldon Sampson Jr. The ball went right off his hands. So he had that awesome, I think 15, 16-yard throw to Blake Neighbors as well. So he's able to play with some combination of ones. It was strange to, Marlon Martinez could have transferred from this team. Had a chance of being either a number 1 or a swing man. Never was going to be a number 1, mostly a swing man, you'd think. He hasn't even been in a swing man position. That was Lance Hurd, and now it might be Miles Frazier who's in that swing man position. And you saw Marlon Martinez out there with the 2s. It's crazy how willing he was, accepting of this backup position, basically, when he could have left to so many other schools. And keep in mind, this is his 4th season, I believe, at LSU. I swear Marlon Martinez was part of that class of 2020. alongside Marcus Dumerville. Let's make it. Let's check that. Check that out. That 2020 class is such a what if. We had Eric Gilbert in that class, Eli Ricks, Kayshon Boutte, in my opinion, is even a what if. Jacqueline Roy never quite developed into what he could have been. BJ Ojolari fulfilled his promise. Kobe Guillory still, or he's still out. Philip Webb, what a freakish athlete. Ollie Gay was part of that class. Xavier Scooter Hill was part of that class. Yep, Marlon Martinez was. Yep, 3-star. Nudie McLaughlin, Coy Moore, Max Johnson, TJ Finley. What a class. What a class of like what ifs and like guys who were good at LSU, guys who were busts. Like you've got it all in that 2020 class. I mean, you got it all in that 2020 class. But as we pointed out in our earlier show, something that really I think is something that has to be said again and again and again. When you look at the defensive back problems at LSU, it's not something that's been created by Robert Steeples or Kerry Cooks. When I heard people uttering that we needed to go get Corey Raymond to come back to LSU, I almost puked. The reason LSU's defensive back problems are where they are right now is because of Corey Raymond. He literally pulled in like 2 guys from the last 2 classes, LT Welch and Demarius McGee. LT Welch wasn't even signed by Corey Raymond. In that 2020 class, most of those guys ended up leaving. 2021, we only signed 1 corner in the entire class. Demarius McGee transferred after 1 just anonymous season. Just 1 guy in 2021. In 2022, we got, Robert Steeples actually came in and saved the day by getting Jalen Davis Robinson just to make up the numbers. And, getting LT Welch to recommit. But that is why DBU is in the situation we are. That's why we had to keep putting Band-Aids on this thing through the transfer portal. And that is why you're seeing struggling across the board. We haven't been able to properly develop the talent we have. We don't really have that much talent. The depth is lacking. We don't really have any dogs in that room. It's worrisome. But I still think Sage Ryan could be good. It's just, where is his best position? I feel like you got to give JB Tobiano and Ashton Stamps a chance out there. It couldn't be worse than what we're seeing from Zy Alexander, right? If LSU lose multiple games this season and do not make it to the college football playoff, it will most likely be because of the defensive back room. I mean, just getting picked on by Grambling is just the lowest point. The lowest point. I mean, I know they only put up 10 points, but it doesn't matter. We all saw it. And it wasn't just the defensive back room. The defense was all over the place as a unit. in that first half. These are the starters. These are LSU's defensive starters against Grambling. And they were all over the fucking place, allowing over 100 rushing yards, over 100 passing yards before we could even blink. Not what you want to see. Not at all what you want to see. I mean, this defense looks sluggish as hell. They got it going in that second half, but like I've shown you statistically, but it just doesn't. Grambling helped us. Grambling helped us big time with their errors tonight. 13 penalties. Almost every timeout was a dead ball timeout from them. But yeah, LSU 72-10. You know, you can't really complain about anything tonight. No big injuries. Certain guys scored that you wanted to get that touchdown. You got the good, feel-good motor going in the running game. The offensive line, there was a schematic change that may provide an exciting future. Having Lance Hurd at right tackle, kicking Emory Jones inside to right guard, and Miles Frazier on the bench now. And you saw the running game go for 300 without Jaden Daniels running for just 29 of it. That's the first time I think that Jaden Daniels has been here, that he hasn't been the leading rusher, or at least second, you know, like, holy crap. That is something that has to change as well if LSU are going to, you know, continue to rattle off these wins. And it's great. It's great that, you know, Alabama lost tonight as well. They're going to be desperate. They're going to be having it all against them, all the pressure. The pressure is off LSU now. The talk of the national college football media was all about LSU's disarray this last week. All about Brian Kelly in press conferences, all about LSU's defense, and all about how LSU's offense didn't look like how it should be. All this stuff was hovering in the air, in the ether, above LSU football. Now that target is right on the back of Saban and Alabama. Losing by 10 to Texas. So we'll take it tonight. We'll take it. We'll take all this. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and hope you had a good night watching some LSU football and watching Alabama lose. It is a wild, wild day of college football. Colorado continue under Deion Sanders to keep beating top programs. You know, Nebraska thought, oh, we'll just beat the crap out of Colorado. That'll be an easy win. They went in there and embarrassed Nebraska. And it was wild to see Colorado's home crowd. They were nuts. And it's just what you want to see in college football, to see this type of pageantry, this type of greatness, this type of wild storylines. And to see Alabama losing by 10 to Texas is hilarious. And it definitely takes the target off of LSU. So go Tigers, everybody.